The United States, unfortunately, is now a fascist state. It is a state that is now operating an international concentration camp system where it is disappearing people off the streets using every avenue of its state power to do so. It has deported multiple innocent people to a torture dungeon ran by a dictator, Nayib Bukele from El Salvador. This is the reality of the Trump administration. This story needs more people to see, and not enough people are talking about it. The world needs to know. Please do some engagement, leave a long comment, and give me a follow. It really, really helps every little bit. But honestly, even in the video I made, I think I might have undersold it. Because I expressed the reality that, yes, the Trump administration is defying the Supreme Court order, but this even undersells how dangerous their interpretation is. They're not just defying the order, they have decided that instead of being ruled against them, the Supreme Court ruled for them. Now, please listen to this clip of Stephen Miller talking. This is one of the most important people in the Trump White House. He is one of the architects of the MAGA revolution, and he is the man behind the deportations, the Muslim ban, child separation policies. This is the core of Trumpism. And listen to how he has interpreted the new reality of what happened with the Supreme Court loss the Trump administration faced.
So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So we had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask
Supreme
for
Court is asking to.
And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it for the court can only be directed to him.
See, it's not just that they have decided that they are going to ignore the court. They've decided they're going to warp reality that the court ruled in their favor. That instead of having to return Mr. Kilmar Obrego Garcia, the young father from Maryland, who is still sitting in a dungeon in El Salvador to this day, who will not come back to the United States by the will of Donald Trump, and who is being assisted by the president of El Salvador and his government, this is American fascism. And if one man can be taken, an innocent man, off the streets, and the second he gets out of the country, the Trump administration decides, because it's a foreign policy issue, no court has any jurisdiction. You also have to understand that the Supreme Court isn't trying to create foreign policy. They're ruling on the legality of the Trump administration's decisions, and this is exactly what they're meant to do. Do not get tricked into any of the lies or this framing by the Trump administration. They are trying to weaponize unreality, to make us all live in the fantasy world they are crafting every day that makes them the eternal good guys. But I think nothing more extreme has come out than the tweet last night by JD Vance, which I'm very sorry because this is going to be very long. You really, really need to hear. And before we start, all the numbers he's saying are just made up. This is coming out of the Republican primaries where they decided to get tough on immigration by inflating the number of people arriving under Joe Biden. And keep in mind, Joe Biden was very strict on the border and literally was causing people to die because of how strict his border policies were. Consider that Joe Biden allowed approximately 20 million illegal aliens into our country. This placed extraordinary burdens on our country. Our schools, hospital, housing, and other essential services were overwhelmed. On top of that, many of these illegal aliens committed violent crimes or facilitated fentanyl and sex trafficking. That is the situation we inherited. The American people elected the Trump administration to solve the problem. The president has successfully stopped the inflow of illegal aliens, and now we must deport the people who came here illegally. To say the administration must observe due process is to beg the question. What process is due is a function of our resources, the public interest, the status of the accused, the presupposed punishment, and so many other factors. To put it in concrete terms, imposing the death penalty on an American citizen requires more legal process than deporting an illegal alien to their country of origin. When the media or the far left obsesses over an MS-13 gang member and demands that he be returned to the United States for a third deportation hearing, what they're really saying is they want the vast majority of illegal aliens to stay here permanently. Here's a useful test. Ask people weeping over the lack of due process what precisely they propose for dealing with Biden's millions and millions of illegals, and with reasonable resources and administration judge constraints. Does their solution allow us to deport at least a few million people per year? If the answer is no, they've given the game away. They don't want border security. They don't want us to deport people who've come into our country illegally. They don't want to accomplish through fake legal process what they failed to accomplish politically. Their ratification of Biden's illegal migrant invasion. President Trump and I will not stand for that. He has a typo at the end of his little fascist speech. Yeah. There's another tweet, by the way. Again, you're not even addressing the issue. Biden overwhelmed the system with illegal migration. Is your proposed solution to give a jury trial to all 20 million illegal aliens? More if you count those already here. And of course, our very robust jury trial system produces errors, so I'm not okay with deporting innocent people any more than I'm okay with sentencing innocent people. What I'm okay with is the reality that any human system will produce errors. Further, I accept the actual trade-off between not enforcing the law and enforcing the law, and I choose the latter despite the inevitable errors. You are hiding behind due process while ignoring that your actual solution means the ratification of a Biden border crisis that was rejected at the ballot box. It's not a question anymore if the United States is a fascist state. Their government is constantly cheering about what they're doing. Even other fascists try to obscure the most extreme parts of their policy. The Trump administration shows everyone and tries to make content out of it.